See that? See it? Can you see? Yeah, come on, mate. You want to see a tiger snake's fang? Come have a look and see. This is all saliva. This could all happen in a minute.
They're really, really small.
He's gone.
See? It's in between the tweezers there. See that? And I have to push the gum down to expose them. So all venomous Australian snakes don't have folding fangs, unlike some vipers and that overseas. They are all just normal modified teeth. They also are not like hypodermic needles. They don't have a hollow centre where the venom flows in. It actually just runs along a groove in the back of the tooth. So it sort of just flows into the wound. It's not injected or pumped in. It's all a load of crap.
Makes you want to have people die.
It's because it's so potent. You don't need much. They're good at it. You know? Yeah. But I'm going to chop it off too, like the other one, because I don't want to. Definitely not buy some tigers. Cut things all the time. Okay, so we can do the same here. Anyone put some gloves on? Come and help. Sure.
Disgusting.
It's not. If anyone wants to do one with me, you're welcome to.
Pass me some gloves.
Huh? You want it?
You want to have a go?
Yeah, have a go if you want. I've got another tiger snake here. We can do it together.
Pass me some gloves.
Yeah, right? Come on. I'll chop the head off for you though. There's gloves. There's medium-sized gloves there. Alright, now where's that bag?
French had a good idea. It's called a gift.
Yeah. But this wouldn't kill a snake straight away because their hearts beat for ages after they're dead. We were just having this discussion before.
How long would you say ages is?
Whether they stay alive, like half an hour?
Right, okay.
An hour?
Because ages is a very relative term.
Yeah.
You know, like
Much longer than
minutes,
a
hours,
much longer
years.
much longer than a mammal. They're either alive or dead. These guys have this limbo land that they live in sometimes that you're not sure which they're gonna wake up or not. So when I do surgery on snakes, I cut them just a couple of scales up and then peel it off to get into the abdomen. And that way, because I don't want to cut them on the bottom, because that drags along the ground and then the sutures can get damaged and not stay in. They can't chew sutures out or pull them out, but they can abrade them out. And actually he was doing a study, helping a guy with a study on broad-headed snakes, and we're putting implants inside them, which was quite a decent sized implant for a small snakes that they are. And the base of the implant was probably about the size of a large pea. And one of them got it out of its abdomen just by wedging itself in the rock and rubbing it back and forward and got it out. And he found the implant and he found the snake, and the snake was fine. Just had a scar on its heart.
So if you're doing surgery on them, you just don't do that bottom part. You just cut half.
I cut here, so I would make an incision along the side here, like this.
And then just kind of open it up enough so you can manage to keep yourself.
Yeah, and the snakes are hard. Like if I had a snake that was gravid and it had eggs stuck, and I had eggs stuck all this way, that's really hard because it means I have to either make a really big incision or make multiple. Normally I'd make multiple. I'd make an incision here and use that to get these ones all out, then make an incision here and use that to get these ones out. Usually they're not very successful at breeding after you take dead eggs out because their sow-finks, or their uterus, which is called a sow-finks in a reptile, is really, really paper thin. Sort of like thinner than that. If one of them has it, I'll show you. It's really hard to suture and to keep sort of together enough to be a proper membrane again, but it can be done. I actually did a cesarean on a pink tongue, and the guy messaged me the other day and said it's doing really well, and sutures are all healed up. So we're going to see whether she'll be able to breed next year. She had a bunch of dead babies inside her, but because her uterus or the sow-finks was quite thick, I was able to suture it close. And there was a study. There's not many reported cases of reptiles having either eggs or babies stuck in them and breeding again, but I actually read one that happened a couple of years ago in the States with a shingleback, and they attempted to get it to breed again because they're so valuable over there. Of course, the owner didn't want them to dissex it, which is what we usually do when we have reptiles that having troubles reproducing. We just dissex them because it's safer for the animal. But I think because they're so, I don't know how much shinglebacks work in the States, but they're worth a lot, especially goldfields. They weren't the black type either, they were the goldfields ones. God knows. And she went on the following year to have live babies, so it can be done. Yeah. So we'll see if the pink tongue does. So that'll be my first one.
How long would it take them to heal once they've had an operation?
We leave the stitches in for about 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
they probably heal
longer
a bit
than
quicker, but
normal.
longer than a mammal because they take longer to do everything. So, get some scissors.
Would that take that arsehole blood?
You can have the sharp ones.
So what's that protruding as? Is that part of the intestine?
Yeah, it is, but we'll find out.
Find out.
Yeah. So, start here and start cutting along. Try to just cut the skin and maybe a bit of the muscle, but if you go too deep, it doesn't matter. When you go deep, you end up cutting the organs as well. I've got a few turtles as well. Turtles are hard, that's why I have bone cutters. They're the hardest to post-mortem unless you have a saw. Sometimes I saw them. They're hard to do surgery on too because you've got a shell in the way. But you can cut the shell and then stick it back together.
Super glue?
No, never glue. You never glue shells back together because the shell's modified bone. And so if you use glue and the glue goes between those two layers of bone, it will stop the bone from healing back together. Just like if we had a broken bone, you can't put the bone back together with any glue in between because the glue stops the bone from mending together because bone is alive. It's always growing. So bone's always putting down bone and taking bone away. So it's an evolving thing all the time. And the shell's the same. And so if you put fiberglass on the shells, which was like the old way that people used to do it all the time, the fiberglass will go between the two layers of the shell and prevent it from healing back together. So we just want to oppose the shell, which there's multiple ways you can do that. You can do it with like saddle clamps and glue it. You can also put screws into the shell and use wire and wire it together, which is what I do sometimes because that's more solid and long lasting. And then you can take them out quite easily later on.
Okay.
But I anesthetize them when I do that. You don't do it when they're awake.
No, no,
It hurts.
no.
Also, it's the bone. Yeah. Well, they go really well. Yeah, go for it. Go through that. That's it. See, okay, so see this? That's the sac. That's the air sac of the lung.
Oh.
See how it's like a honeycomb thing going all the way down? Really fine, but it's got this different structure. That's the air sac that goes all the way down here, all the way down here. Keeps going till about...
Very red there.
Yeah, that's its lungs. And this bit that was coming out of this one that got bitten by a dog was a bit of kidney and intestines. So it would have lost a kidney, plus its back was broken.
Oh, so that's the heart, right?
Yep.
Yes, that's the heart. I've got some small gloves if you want small ones. Yeah.
So is that
Trachea.
trachea?
That's
Yeah.
it. Perfect. That is jugular.
Right. Yep.
So you can, it's really hard to put IV, or is that the jugular there? I think it's a bit of both. Yeah. It's really hard to put snakes on an IV, put IV fluids, or give them a blood transfusion. You can give blood transfusions to reptiles, and you try to go from like lizard to lizard and snake to snake, but you can just use what you have.
Do I not cut far enough?
No, you did. Just start pulling it across. See, you didn't go through to the body cavity, but you can. It's really easy to pull it out. Keep going.
Do reptiles have different blood types like humans?
I don't know.
So that you
There's not much in there, but I've given transfusions just from like bearded dragon, like dragon to dragon, or lizard to other lizard, turtle to turtle, like short neck to like long neck to short neck.
That's all lunged.
Oh, lizard the snake?
Yeah, I reckon you could. Yeah. So that's lung there.
that's all
So this
we
is the
have.
true lung, and then you have the air sac that goes all the way.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
that's it.
Is that just fat deposits?
Yep,
or-
that's fat, and that's a healthy snake. Nearly all healthy snakes have heaps of white fat like that. It's normal.
And
When you see, that's the gallbladder and that triad. So if you dissect it out really carefully, I'll show you the other parts, because this one's a bit bigger. So usually, it always stains green after post-mortem, always.
Yeah.
And it happens in all animals. but there's another little bit here, see?
Oh.
And so you have, this has 2 parts to it.
If that popped, that would stink like hell.
No, it doesn't stink, it just stains everything around. So you have this little group together is your spleen, pancreas, and gallbladder.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any male or
Stomach's
female? Yep, male or female.
Alright.
Signs
Let's
down
have
here.
a look. Male.
Male. Okay.
Yeah. Because I can see that squiggly little structure there is the vas deferens,
Right.
which is where the sperm travels along.
Yep.
And the females have follicles.
How far down would should I stop?
All the way to its coraca. So yeah, to give fluids, say if I have a dehydrated reptile, I have a few different ways I can give them fluids. I can put it underneath the skin. It's uncomfortable for them to do that. They don't like it much, but it's a good way to do it, especially for people who don't know what they're doing, so a lot of wise carers do that. Another way is to put it into their body cavity, it's intracoelomic. We don't call it an abdomen and thorax in a reptile because they don't have a diaphragm, so it's called a coelom. It's a whole body cavity. You can inject fluid straight into their body cavity through the side. And if you know how to do it, it's quite safe, but you have to be careful because you can go into an organ and then you're putting heaps of fluid into an organ. And then you can put it intravenously, so into a vein, but veins are hard to get in reptiles. For a snake, you have to actually cut down. You have to cut the skin and under anaesthetic or by holding them down and find it visually and put the catheter in. Or and that's the only way for snakes. But lizards have limbs, so you can put it into the actual bone of the limb, and it's intraosseous. So you're putting the fluid straight into their bone marrow, and that's a really quick way to rehydrate an animal. And we do that sometimes in rats because it's hard to get an IV in a rat, but you can get IV catheters in a rat.
So with lizards, what would your go-to be?
Sorry. I just put it intracoelomic, just into the body cavity. It's the most quickest and effective way and less stressful for the animal. It happens really quick. If I have a really dedicated owner with like a beardie that we're trying to save, then I will put an intraosseous one and tape it in. They can stay in for a few days and we can run a continuous rate of fluids going for the whole time.
What about fish? Do you ever operate on a fish?
I have operated on fish.
How do you go to doing that?
So you anaesthetize them by either injecting them with an anaesthetic agent, and then you just have them out of the water on a wet surface, and you get an assistant to keep syringing water over their gills. Or you can mix anaesthetic gas in the water and use that as well. Yeah, but people do abdominals. I haven't done abdominal surgery on a fish. I've only just taken tumours off like goldfish and stuff. But you can do it. I've done surgery on axolotls. Same sort of thing. Just keeps them under because they eat stones sometimes and frogs. You have to cut them out. Can't eat.
Well done.
I've even anaesthetised a spider.
What kind of spider?
Tarantula.
So what
This one, see? That's where I got hit by a car.
Spoken about a lot with
What's that? Oh, you can see the red.
Sorry.
So this was from trauma.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry, was
Oh, yeah, there was two
Sorry, I
things.
was talking over you.
What were you saying?
a lot of people talk about infections with reptiles, especially lizards, from the substrates and stuff like that. Is that a quite common thing that you see?
I actually don't see it that often.
Is that more of a myth, do you think? That,
I think it can happen. Sand impactions I've seen.
yeah.
But not as commonly as the most common thing I'd see a bearded dragon for is either poor husbandry, so metabolic bone disease. Yeah, go for it. Play around. Tell me what everything is.
I don't know what anything is.
Well, you just listen to me do this one. You should know.
Bone, organ.
What's up here? Start at the top. Start at the top. Start at the top. Okay. What's this one?
Ah.
Yep. And this bit. So this looks more like a more normal lung because it's this bright red colour is a bit inflamed. So this could be a post-mortem change still, but it could be because it was stressed out and got traumatised by this being shaken around by a dog. Do you know if the dog got bitten?
I think it may have, yeah, because they took it to the vet.
Yeah, tiger snakes.
They had it at the
bites
vet.
are nasty in dogs.
I don't know what happened with the dog.
Yeah, they're hard. They're sick for a long time when they're bitten by a tiger snake. They have a huge volume of venom too. And you can really see the honeycomb shape of the lung there that keeps going. And then we have a liver. Nice long liver. Yeah. And then we have a stomach. And this one is a bit underweight, like it's not as fat as this one. See how there's less fat and the fat's smaller? everything's really mushed up from being hit.
Can you tell if it's a male or female?
Yeah, I'm trying to find out for you. I don't smell that bad, I don't think. It's all mushed. I think it's a girl. See these little dots? Lots of little dots along there. And you can feel them. And there's another one. So there's one ovary and there's another one down here.
So when you probe them, Michelle, to sex them, is it hard to probe?
No, you just go into the hemipene pocket. I didn't bring my probes. I can come another time and show you how to probe them if you want to learn or how to sex them. I can sex blue tongues too now, and these guys.
Yeah.
You put a dye into their hemipene pocket, and females have a hemiclitори, and males have hemipenes, and they have different shapes on X-ray. I only learnt that in the last year or so.
Yeah.
Started doing it. It's a bit hard, some of them, to really know, but you get pretty good success rate.
Right.
Which before I had no idea how to sex a blue tongue. I didn't think you could.
The ones that you've done for us, there
Yeah.
was one that you weren't certain of.
One, not quite sure, yeah.
What was that?
Just because when it went in, it was really hard to tell whether it was the boy shape or the girl shape. And some of them, it's really hard to get the dye to go into the pocket properly. So I can always do it again another day and try again.
It doesn't matter, I was just curious.
But it'll be interesting to know if what I said was correct, because I've only just started doing it. And some of them, when I do them, it's a really obvious, yes, that's a male, yes, that's a female. And other times it's like, yeah, that looks more like a boy, that one looks more like a girl. Yeah. So when you probe these guys, you're going into the hemipene pocket. I'll see if I can find it. But this is a girl. This one was a boy, wasn't it?
Yeah, that one you said was a boy.
So what about the pendulum thing? Does that,
The what?
where you wave the...
No. Not into all that woo stuff. So what I was talking about before, Cole, about the substrate, I have seen it, but rarely, not very commonly, with lizards. Like I was saying, the most common thing I see bearded dragons in is for either husbandry issues, but I've been seeing a bit less of that lately, which is really nice. Yeah, good to see people are getting educated and looking after them properly. Taking them outside is the best thing you can do. And the other thing that I see them for are parasites. And a lot of them have them when people get them, and it's only in periods of looking at sex organs, stress that they get sick. So
And the parasites are from my food and things like that? Or?
I think they got them from when they get them. They've had them the whole life. And they get to the age of like 2 or 3, and then their parasite load slowly creeps up if they get stressful times, usually during winter.
So you think it's coming from the parents?
Yeah.
Or?
No, from the husbandry, from where the breeders.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like I don't know what breeders regularly worm or test their reptiles. I'd recommend that if anyone's breeding bearded dragons or any small reptile, to regularly get their adults' feces checked. You don't need to worm them all the time, but get them checked, and then I can tell you if they have parasites or not, whether you need to treat them or not. And you have to do it sort of sporadically.
One thing that I was interested in with
Man,
some of those,
these guys have long hemipenes. Jesus Christ.
with the antibiotics,
Yeah.
that we inject them into the back of the lizard.
Yep.
Now, I remember years ago when I understood that they were doing it in their legs and things like that.
Yeah.
So that practice has changed quite a bit.
Yeah, they used to say not to inject down here. I got told not to inject down here because they have a really weird renal portal system. So I got told that if you inject in the bottom half of the body, that the antibody can go straight and circulate through the kidneys and get excreted, and so it doesn't go into the body. So I always inject at the top. Except for turtles, I just sort of put it whatever's easiest to grab. It's hard to shove it in their front legs sometimes because they're always like moving around. And you've got to make it so that the owner can physically do it. If I make it too difficult, they're not going to do it. Do tiger snakes have massive hemipenes or something? I don't know. I've never gone.
He's well endowed.
That's what I'm thinking. Look at this, it's going. That must be the muscle. I think the hemipene finishes here. See? See how it's all got the different colour to it? And I sort of hit a dead end. So this is the hemipenis of the snake down here, and this everts out when they reproduce. So this bit here will come out this way. See? Now it looks more like the hemipene. That must be the muscle that holds it in and out. Look. And so when you're sexing them and putting the probe in, you're putting the probe down this pocket to see how far back it goes from the cell. Kind of cool. Yeah,
So
well,
with
I
a
did that
female,
before.
obviously, that simply won't exist.
They have a pocket there still. It's just a blunt end.
Just very small, very short.
Because people probe them and hurt them and turn them into boys. And they get it wrong. See, it's like just a dead end pocket. There's not much there, but this tissue here, if you shove a probe in into this little spot here, you can go through this and just make your own pocket. And that's why people sex them wrong, because they're too forceful when they do it. You have to sort of know how hard you can push in that hemipene pocket, and as soon as you feel a bit of resistance, but with experience you get to know, okay, it doesn't feel quite right, and have a bit of a feel, and it pops in for a boy. And other times if they have a sperm plug there or something, it might block it a bit. And then, but some people I think just a bit too forceful, and especially with young snakes, so you can pop them in really easy. Cool. Have fun.